It has been getting extremely hot outside recently, and I know a lot of people, including myself, don't want to spend a ton of time in the kitchen making an extravagant meal for dinner when it's this hot outside. So today I will be sharing 5 new dinners with you that come together in only about 10 minutes or less. These dinners are extra easy today, but they're extra delicious and amazing. Let's get to my kitchen and let's get started. To kick us off today, we are making these seared ranch pork chops, and these are not your average, like dry hockey puck pork chops. These pork chops are so good, and even if you're not the biggest pork chop fan in the world, I think you're still going to like these. I'm starting out by seasoning my 5 boneless pork chops with a packet of ranch seasoning mix and then a dash of salt, pepper, and paprika. Make sure you spread that seasoning on well, and then make sure you do season them generously on both sides. Now that these are seasoned well, over to this pan on my stove, I added in a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil. Once my butter melted down, I am just going to add my pork chops to the pan and cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, or until they reach an internal temperature of 150 degrees. There's kind of going to be like a crust on the outside of the pork chops, and it just makes them so good. But once these pork chops are cooked through, just remove them to a plate. Let them sit for a couple minutes and then you could slice them up. These pork chops are not your average boring bland pork chops. They are full of flavor, they are juicy, and oh so delicious. I served these pork chops alongside of some garlic buttered Parmesan noodles, and I also served them with some seasoned zucchini. I actually took a shortcut with the zucchini today. I used one of these bags. It's just a 10-ounce bag of frozen zucchini from the grocery store. I just cooked it up on my stove with a little bit of butter, Parmesan, and Italian seasoning, and it is so good. Let me know if you want to see me make it sometime. Now we're making these fajita quesadillas. So to begin, I'm going to slice up my vegetables, 1 red onion, a yellow bell pepper, and a red bell pepper. Over to the pan on my stove, I'm adding in a tablespoon of olive oil. Next, I'm going to add in 14 ounces of thin sliced steak. This is my first time using this packet of steak, and it was only about $6 at my store, and we were really impressed with it. The meat was very high quality, so I do recommend it. Next, I'm adding my vegetables in there, and I'm going to cook this together for about 5 to 7 minutes, or until the steak is like golden brown on the outside and the vegetables are tender. Now stir in a tablespoon of taco seasoning. Once it's well combined, you can assemble your quesadillas. You could assemble these like into burritos if you don't want to make them into quesadillas. You could also assemble them into like rice bowls, or however you choose to do so. Today I'm using a griddle, or you could use a large skillet. Add a little bit of oil or butter to your griddle, then add your tortillas down and then top them with a little bit of cheese and then that steak and pepper mixture. But you could add anything into your quesadillas that you would like. If you don't want to use cheese, you of course don't need to add the cheese, but on top of the steak and veggies I added a little bit more cheese, just because if you know me, you probably know by now how much I really love cheese. Once your tortilla is crispy on the outside, you could serve this up. I topped mine with a little bit of sour cream, guacamole, and lime. These are so delicious. I can't even explain it to you. Also, if you don't want to use steak, you could always use like thin chicken, but these are so yummy, you need to try them. Now we're making these hamburger tacos, and we're going to begin on the sauce first. This sauce is so good. To this bowl, I added 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, a tablespoon of yellow mustard. Next, add in a tablespoon of relish and 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Give this a really good stir. This is kind of like a special sauce, like a mac sauce, or one of those style of sauces. Let this sit in your refrigerator while we work on the hamburger tacos now. I have a pound of ground beef right right here. Roll your ground beef into about 6 balls just like this, and then after that bring them over to the stove, and you're going to season your hamburger balls with a dash of salt and pepper. Now add your balls to the pan on the stove without overcrowding your pan. Then over the hamburger balls you are going to add a small tortilla. I'm using the street flour size tortillas. Press the ground beef down just so it flattens out over the tortilla. Now you're going to cook it for about 4 minutes on each side, or until the ground beef is cooked through. Now that my hamburger tacos are cooked through, I'm adding slices of American cheese on the top, or you could use any cheese that you'd like to, just to let the cheese melt down. Then you could top these with your toppings and your sauce. So I'm first topping it with that special sauce that we made up. That sauce is so rich and delicious. Then I'll top them with slices of onion, lettuce, and ketchup. But go ahead and top these hamburger tacos with really anything that you'd like to. These are out of this world good. They're such a delicious twist on regular boring hamburgers. These are amazing and you need to try them at least once. Now we're making this easy chicken parmesan. I have 2 chicken breasts right here. I'm going to slice them in half horizontally. This will make the chicken thinner. This will help the chicken cook a lot quicker, and it will really help the chicken become extra tender in the end. Now you're going to want to season the chicken on both sides just with a dash of salt and pepper right now. After you're through with that, we're going to work on the coating for the chicken. So I have 3 bowls right here. Into one bowl I'm going to be adding 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. You want to make sure you use the all-purpose flour. In the next bowl, I'm adding 2 eggs. Just whisk those eggs up super duper well. And in the last bowl, I'm adding 1.5 cups of Italian-style panko breadcrumbs and 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Just give that a good mix. Those Italian-style panko breadcrumbs are really good if you've never tried them. First, dip your chicken in the flour, then coat them in the egg. Last, make sure they get coated super well in that panko mixture, then set them on a separate plate. Do this for all of the pieces of chicken. I'll set my chicken to the side to this large pot of boiling water. I'm adding in my 10 ounces of spaghetti. Cook the spaghetti according to the package instructions. To this little pot, I'm adding in my 24 ounces of spaghetti sauce. I'll let this simmer while I work on the chicken. To my pan, I'm adding in 1/2 cup of olive oil. Once my oil was hot, I added my chicken right into the pan. You're going to want to cook the chicken for about 4 minutes on each side, or until the chicken is completely cooked through. And once you have your chicken cooked through, just remove it to a plate lined with paper towels just to absorb any excess grease. Then you could serve this up. We just placed the chicken alongside of our little bed of spaghetti on our plate, and then we topped it with a little bit of the sauce and then some mozzarella cheese on the very top. If you're not a cheese fan, you don't have to add the cheese. This is still so good without the cheese, but this chicken is so crispy and juicy in the middle. This dinner comes together in absolutely no time at all, but it really does taste like you spent hours and hours trying to make it. It is so rich and phenomenal. Now we are making this ranch bacon pasta salad. To this pan on my stove, I'm adding about 6 slices of bacon to the pan. I'm also adding a little bit of water in the pan to help the bacon cook evenly. Over to this pot of boiling water, I'm adding in 12 ounces of rotini pasta just to let that pasta cook away. And while the bacon and pasta are cooking, over to my cutting board, I'm slicing 1 cup of cherry tomatoes. I'm going to cube 8 ounces of cheddar cheese and slice green onions. I'll set this to the side. Now that my pasta is tender, I'm going to strain it and rinse it in cold water. Rinsing it in the cold water helps stop the cooking process, and we do want the pasta to be completely cooled down to add it into the pasta salad. Now that my bacon's cooked through, I'll remove it to a plate lined with paper towels and I'll set it to the side. We're going to work on the homemade ranch dressing now. So to this bowl, I added in 1/3 cup of sour cream. Next, add in 1/3 cup of mayonnaise, mayonnaise followed by 3 tablespoons of milk. Then add in 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm using fresh lemon juice, or you could use the lemon juice in a bottle. Next, add in a teaspoon and a half of dried dill, and then a teaspoon and a half of onion powder and garlic powder. Then a half a teaspoon of salt and a fourth a teaspoon of pepper. Give this a really good whisk, and this is your homemade ranch dressing. It is so good. Now into this large bowl, I'm going to be adding in my cooked cooled pasta. After you add that pasta in, add in the tomatoes, cheese, and green onions that we cut up earlier. Then after you add that in, add in the bacon. Just make sure you crumble that bacon up into kind of like bacon bits. Now I'm adding in 1 cup of frozen thawed peas. Then add in 2 cups of fresh baby spinach, and then that homemade ranch dressing. Give this a really good stir, and you could serve this immediately, or you could chill it in your fridge for later. Either way will work, but this pasta salad is so good. This recipe is actually in my cookbook. It is on page 38. I have over 100 of my favorite recipes in this book, and if you don't have a cookbook yet, I do have some more in stock right now for you. I have notes pages in this cookbook. I have desserts. I have over 8 sections. I have it all in this book. But this pasta salad makes for the most perfect dinner at this time of the year. You could have it for lunches. You can meal prep it for meals for the week. It is absolutely delicious. It has the most perfect textures in it. And if I